Hello, welcome to Toffee TV. It is the final word. It is just us two.
Just us two again with the dream team recently.
Just the dream team.
You've been watching the lives, me and Ped, the dream team.
There you go. Nottingham Forest. Final word. A victory.
Great. Great to just be out on a final word and it's a win.
Yeah.
Because I know people got a bit worried that we were having a lot of draws, but it's nice that we finally got a win, and I think it was a deserved win as well, ultimately.
Yeah. James, people were getting a little bit, had been getting in the last few weeks, not worried. I don't think worried is the right thing to say about the position or relegation or anything like that. I think people were just getting a bit worried that we hadn't won for a while, and it was like, you know, maybe the season was starting to peter out a little bit, and obviously with this tough run that we're in at the moment in terms of the teams we're playing, top 5, top 6, to get a win was such a big boost for everyone, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at Forest and sort of the season that they've been having, and it's sort of looking at it as an Everton fan, what you want us to be doing next season. You know, we went from sort of battling at the bottom to now going up right at the top, and I think their players as well, they've got that sort of reputation now that they are good players. Like you look at Chris Wood and you look at Elanga, and these were two players going into this game that we thought weren't going to be involved. So for them to be involved and basically do nothing. I know we spoke about it saying they might have looked a bit injured and rushed back in, but for them to be quietened down so much by Everton, it was great. And I think this had everything written all over it that it could have been one of them games where Everton go into it, we do really well, we make loads of good chances, but it's just that final bit we can't just get right. And I think, I mean, I was worried a lot that this was going to be the same case. You know, we just didn't really take on our chances, but to have that last one right at the end and us to score, it was massive. And it's a few games we probably deserved that as well, but yeah. I'm glad we got it.
Yeah, it felt earned, didn't it? It felt earned at least. You know, as you're saying there's been games this season, obviously we've had loads of draws recently, and you think, well, that's a fair result, or maybe we got lucky, or I don't know, the United game, I thought we definitely deserved it and we've thrown it away. But Saturday, I thought from start to end, we really deserved it. But, I mean, what did you make of, obviously, the team going into the game? We thought there was going to be changes.
Yeah.
But just with sort of like the makeup of the squad at the moment, you're not really sure who he's going to, who he's really looking at, who he's not looking at, is he thinking of the future? Is he just trying to win games last week? So we saw Tim Abuna come into the side, we saw Patterson coming at left back, obviously Gueye come back. So what did you make of obviously Brozier coming in and starting the game up front, and the return of obviously Mykolenko and James Garner? It was only Brozier really, that was the shock, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Mykolenko was an obvious one because, you know, them wingers that are quite attacking, he always does well against them. So I think the worry was with Elanga. I thought Mykolenko probably would have been able to keep him quiet, and ultimately did end up keeping him quiet. Idrissa was it was a disappointing performance, I thought, and I think it was right that he came out of the team. I think at the start of the season we saw him and he could be a bit sloppy, a bit turned off, and I think he sort of carried that on and didn't really make the place his own in a way. And so James Garner coming back in was definitely there. But the most interesting one was Brozier, because you look at sort of his profile and Beto's profile, and they're completely different really.
Yeah.
You know, Brozier, you know, he's good with his feet, he likes it, and he comes a bit deeper, whereas Beto put it in behind and he runs onto it.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a style switch from Moyes. And Brozier came in and obviously we were all quite excited about it, but he got injured and just keeps getting injured, and he's never really had this chance. And I'll be honest, I don't think it was his best game against Forest. I think he'd be a lot more suited if he had like a Beto or someone next to him, purely for the fact that he came deep and he was going out wide, and so Jack Harrison was getting out wide and Brozier was right next to him, so there's no one to aim for really with a cross, and it was just stuff like that just was a bit more frustrating. So I think if Brozier played again, I mean, I think he will, but I'd like to see him more maybe on the right like he does for Albania, and sort of playing off that striker, because you can see when he gets the ball, he's quick and he's got good feet and he was dribbling nicely, but I just don't think we have the team built around him to have that type of play.
Do you think that's why David Moyes, one of the reasons he really likes Doucouré is because he can supplement, I would say, the forward? I think when Beto plays, you have Decore doing a lot of the physical work, and I think Saturday, Decore trying to almost swap with Brozier, become the number 9, while Brozier becomes the player who drops into midfield. Because I'm not having you're absolutely right, Brozier doesn't traditionally suit the way we play, or the way we have been playing, and Schmidt sort of in the last couple of games has been, you know, not as in favour as we thought he was going to be when he came back into West Ham, and they both come in. I thought Schmidt would get a few games because he seemed to fit the style, but he's opted to get Brozier off the bench earlier, and obviously Saturday starting, and obviously he has to have a look at him, and that's good. We all want players that have been, you know, on the sidelines to get an opportunity to see whether they're good enough or not. But you are right, it's difficult for him because we just don't play to his style, and if he does drop deep, that means that we have to get players beyond him. And it happened a few times where it worked, but ultimately I just don't think we're quite used to that style yet.
No, not at all. And I think you're right that Decore and him sort of do work better as a partnership than probably him and Beto, because you look at him and Beto and it's sort of chaos and chaos, really, with about just going after everything. And obviously it's worked for us, but you'd like someone who has that sort of a nicer touch, who can bring out more of the strength in Decore as well with that. But I just don't really think, for how we played now, we're going to play, I don't really think it worked too well. But that's not to say Brozier wouldn't work well in an Everton team, because you look at sort of how he played at clubs before Everton, and like Southampton he played predominantly on the left. I think Fulham he was out wide of it as well. And I think for this Everton team especially, you know, the wingers, they haven't been in amazing form, I mean, apart from Ndai, but obviously he's coming back to the team, and so I'm hopeful that we'll get to see him out wide, so you can see sort of his true capabilities, because right now there's no reason for Everton to even consider making the loan permanent. He hasn't really shown that he can remain fit, and he hasn't shown really too much on the pitch. He's had good moments, and you think back to like when he came on against Wolves, he probably should have had a hat-trick of assists, but never got them. And I think that's also further proof though that them games in the past when he did come on, he could have had a hat-trick of assists from how creative he is as a player. So I think it's playing in with someone else who can sort of do that job, I think, is sort of what Everton should be looking at doing. Yeah.
He's got to get a look at all of them, hasn't he? You know, Carlos Alcaraz, Brozier, McNeil coming back into the side. He's got to have a little look at all of them and figure out what, especially he's got to look at players that obviously are on loan. He's got to have a look at players that are Everton players to figure out what he needs. But I must admit, I was a little bit worried going into this game whether we would be switched on, as you know, I mentioned in the match preview, those little 0.5% would Forest want it a little bit more than we did. But I think ultimately it worked the other way. I thought the percentage wise, like, you know, we wanted it more all over the pitch. The structure was a lot better. I thought we coped with what they do really well. I thought we broke really well. Although a lot of it, other than the goal, didn't really lead anywhere. But I just thought the game plan was superb, and you know, that's why we did bring James Garner back for Timber Boom. You know, that's why Decore is in there. You know, that to really help make that game plan work, to get those moments, and we limited them to very little. And I just thought we started the game. I thought we started the game really, really well, and we never really let them settle. We never really let them get into the rhythm. We never really let them. I think that what most pleasing thing is, you know, when you watch a game and you're on top, but you just start letting the opposition do what they want to do a little bit too easy, like running off players and getting into positions where they're getting, you know, maybe the first time it doesn't happen, but they're starting to get a little bit comfortable. I just thought we didn't let them do that at all. Certainly in the first half, you know, the wide plays weren't really getting the service. Chris Wood, you know, Tarky and Branthwaite were immense in there. And we just didn't let them find that rhythm that they wanted to get in. I thought that was the most important thing in that first half.
Yeah, I think it's a true testament really to how well David Moyes has done since he came in. Because you look at games like this especially, you know, we're playing third in the league, and it's the 60th minute. I think in the past, not just under Dyche but under the managers, we would have sat back and we would have just accepted it. And because, you're getting at least a point away from home to third place team. But I think something that you've seen Moyes, and he's done it in a few games now, you look at like the derby and stuff like that, is that he's not just accepting draws. I know we've had a lot of draws, but I don't feel like he's accepting it. Like,
no,
he brings a lot of attacking substitutions on, like, to sort of go at the game. I think if we had better players, we probably would have turned a lot of the draws round, but it's just a shame, really. And it's just, it's way better, just purely for the fact that we're actually going after teams and we actually look like we want to win a game.
Yeah, the game plans, the game plan for this was be deep, not let any space. Even though we were going to have more of the possession, and we did have more of the possession, it was to make sure we were deep, but not like, it wasn't like a low block, but it was just sitting in a nice comfortable area, and then the three in midfield being really combative. And obviously Idrissa Gueye is a major factor in that, and making sure you've got some kind of threat at the other end. And I thought we did. Listen, first half was very, very easy. I think there was like 0.1% between like the XGs, like the shots on target were all very similar. But I think when you go to away games, you have to settle down the crowd. I thought they were very loud before the game, like, but I thought once the game started, I thought it quietened down a lot because, and I get it. Forest fans are, they are clearly in a position now where it gets real. It's getting real. Champions League is right there, but you've just lost to Villa. An Everton team in a bit of form are coming, and you're like, and it goes very quiet because everyone's concentrating on the game. It's great to have an amazing atmosphere and all that. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like quiet the whole game, but you can feel the concentration of the fans as well as we're getting on top, and you're thinking, are we going to score here, or are we going to score here today? And I thought the more that first half went on, and as we dominated more and more, and as I said, I think they had like the one shot, didn't he, where Hudson-Odoi's cut inside Jacob Brien, and it's not really much of a save, but it goes into an area where it's a little bit dangerous. But just to quieten them down, so that, because I watched them last week, and even though Villa scored a couple of goals in the first half, second half when they came out, they were right on it. Forest was so much energy and belief. They were 2-0 down. He'd obviously sent them out, but they couldn't. And they scored and got to 2-1, and it become very nervy. And certainly in the first half, after the atmosphere, how the atmosphere was before the game, I think the fans expected a fast start. And that was my worry. If these scored early, what are we going to have? How can we counter that? We don't score loads of goals. Let's be honest, we're not prolific, are we? But it was to quieten that down. But also, when you're at a game, any game, when you're the second best. And I think they knew they were second best in this game. I think they knew that Everton had come with a game plan, and the game plan was working. And it wasn't a game plan just to stop them from scoring. It was a game plan to try and win the game. And I think that's the worry, is what you do. And it's almost like we've done it loads. You can't wait to get in at half time, because things will be said, things will be changed, and you think, right, we'll come out second half. And that for me was really important, and I think that's where we got so much right on Saturday. Yeah,
I think, as you said, the game plan, you look at both the teams going into it, and we're both the lowest average possession teams, drawing. And so neither of us really won the ball, especially Forest. And I think Everton, it's so important that, you do attacking away games, because purely for the fact of, we just keep sitting back, we're never going to go at them. Yeah. I think going at them, they looked worried right from the off. I think we had a few early chances where, on a different day, you look like the James Garner one.
Yeah, that was a really nice move, that, wasn't it?
Yeah. And you look at them, and it's sort of, you could tell they were in a way worried. And as you said, we were talking about it before, the only really notable chance that I can remember was that Hudson-Odoi one, and it was directly at Pickford, really. Yeah. So it was minimising their chance as well, also making us have more. And it's just, it was nice to see Everton really going for it against the top team, or top team at the minute.
Yeah.
And not really look scared about it either. Yeah. Like, we were willing to commit the bodies forward, which is a big sort of, I don't know, bad argument against why Dyche had to go in the end.
Well, another thing from this game was, I think I mentioned last week was, when you're playing sides, see when you get to this stage of the season, they obviously have a formula of how they win games.
Yeah. And
players are coming in and out the team. It doesn't really matter. You're just interchanging players all the time. And you know, those players get in there and everything keeps going and you're ticking over really well. You have to if you're going to finish in the Champions League places. And I'm not downplaying our performance at all, by the way, but I thought he showed a really naive hand by playing plays who were clearly weren't fit. I don't remember Chris Wood touching the ball.
I was about to say, I don't remember touching him.
I don't remember touching him, like literally having like any kind of influential touch. And then he brought Alanga at that time, and he didn't really do anything. And as I said, I'm not going to sit here going, well, we only won because they were rubbish. It's not the truth at all. I just thought they showed a lot of naivety.
Yeah.
Listen, I think their other centre forwards injured, and they didn't start a centre forward last week, but they had almost like false nine with Gibbs by playing in there, and Alanga and Hudson-Odoi, maybe because they didn't have Alanga, they couldn't quite do that. So I thought that was a little bit naive from them, but you have to look at all. We didn't know how fit Chris Wood was. We didn't know when he wasn't ruled out. I was like, he'll play. But managers will often kid you, and Moyes is one of those managers. You have to plan for almost like the worst case scenario, and the worst case scenario is them having every player fit. Yeah. So you're not changing the tactics at like when you get the team sheet. The tactics are always been there, and again that led us to be really brave. And second half, what I really loved about the second half was we were even more bold in the second half. And just looking here now, the XG from the second half was 0.29 for them, which it dropped, and ours was 1.12. No. So it went up. We had two big chances.
There was that in Dion, wasn't it? That was a bit of a shame.
Well, the Njai one was a really good one, really good ball from Taki. I thought his first touch was brilliant. Yeah. His second touch, it wasn't a bad touch. No. It just
gave the keeper a better chance.
Gave the goalkeeper a chance. Maybe if he'd been closer, he wouldn't have needed the second touch. The first touch was brilliant. It was a great ball by Taki. The keeper comes out, makes a really good save. So that was a fantastic opportunity, and that just show again. That just builds that thing of we can get in here. We can get in behind them.
Yeah, because that's sort of a goal that you would expect the guy to be scoring. Yeah. Or even if it felt like a better or something, it's like a perfect chance for them type of players. And it was disappointing they didn't score it, but as you said, it gave the confidence that these have a weakness really in a way. I know they've been strong defensively and stuff, but we can get through them easily. And that was just one ball that managed to beat both defenders and gave them a great chance. So, yeah.
Especially when like there's so much talk about their back line and about their two centre backs. Like, I might be in the minority here. I am not massively impressed by that Murillo. I think I've heard loads of people, and I don't know whether it's just people repeating other people. I am not massively. I think we showed it late in the game, but I'm not massively impressed by him. Maybe it's this attacking stuff that people love, but as a defender, I think he leaves a lot of space behind him, and maybe that's, listen, sometimes a player can play in a certain way that you'd expect this from a midfielder or an attacker, maybe not a defender. I know he does help start a lot of the attacks, but as a defender, I've never really been impressed. I don't know. Might be the shorts. They just seem massively too big for me. But we did start to make chances, and the confidence grew again that we could get something, because they didn't really have anything. Chris Wood went down really easy for Jake O'Brien. The ball came across Jake O'Brien, sort of, he's got his hands sort of like there, and Chris Wood goes down, and there was nothing in it whatsoever, and he's gone down. Everyone shouted for it. They've had the one where Alanga is cut inside. Because Jake O'Brien, this is the problem with being a fullback and being that big as a fullback. You just can't shift your weight quick enough. And I think if Jake O'Brien has a weakness, that's the weakness.
It's size, yeah. Because I think his footwork's decent.
I think part of it is as well, you worry about not being clumsy, but being seen as clumsy. So if he shifts and you touch him and you're on the wrong side of him, like we saw last week for our penalty, referees will often side with the attacker. It's an old trick, really. It's an old trick. Forwards used to do it all the time. You get the wrong side, you use the opposition's weight, even if it's grabbing. Defenders used to grab hold, probably still do. Defenders grab hold of the arm of the defender and drag them down, and it makes it look like, certainly pre-VAR days and Sunday League days, it makes it look like the defenders fell on top of the striker, but he hasn't. They've just used their weight against him. So he's got to be really careful, and all he can hope for is that Taki comes over and shifts and blocks that off. So he has another shot, and it doesn't really do anything. And apart from that, like, they didn't get a corner. The corner we scored off their only corner. We had 5 corners in the second half, and that was the
Weren't great corners either.
They weren't. I mean, ours were terrible, and we need to talk about our corners. But we just again grew in confidence. And how much do you think, knowing as well what we have on the bench, because we've made subs on the 64th minute, the 67th minute, and obviously at the 90th minute, but how much do you think now having that bench can, you know, I mean, the bench with Beto, Carlos Alcaraz, Dwight McNeil, Nathan Patterson, Ashley Young, Michael Keane, Tim Irabunim, Yusuf Shimiti, how much do you think having that kind of bench now really helps push Everton on? Because you go back to, say, the Man United game, 2-0 up, 60th minute, say, you're looking for that change. Man United not really making a difference, but you want to keep that pressure up, and we see it slip away. 65th minute on this, Brogers, probably most he's played for a while, and Jai, who's had not a great game. I said he had the one in the first half, and he's had the header as well. The one in the second half, he's had the header in the first half, and he's had a couple of moments, but he hasn't had a great game. Still looks like he needs a bit more of game time. Fit, so you've got that opportunity. Then it's a massive boost, isn't it, to have players off the bench who can come on. Yeah,
absolutely, it's massive. I think a big criticism of Moyes, not really criticism in a way, but because you have like the likes of Beto and Decore, you do use a lot of energy. By the 70th minute, they're done in, really. And so Everton's tactics don't really work, and that's where sort of we were getting caught out with. Yeah. So I think having, you know, like the likes of Brozier and having the likes of Shimiti, having Dwight McNeil and stuff, it's increased competitions for positions. And I think for probably a long while at Everton, people got far too comfortable in just being able to have their position and not really having anyone compete for it. And so, as much as, you know, Beto's done well since David Moyes came in, he's went, 5-6 games without scoring a goal. So you have the opportunity now to bring another striker in, and hopefully either he plays well or it just raises the performance levels of Beto. I think especially out on the wing now too, having like a Dwight McNeil who is ultimately a set piece specialist for when we do get corners and stuff, but he's going to challenge Jack Harrison, he's going to challenge, well, not Lindstrom now, but he's going to challenge these players to sort of go up that next level, otherwise they're not going to be in the team.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's players on the bench who you're saying then who are probably fighting for their place in the squad next season. You know, Nathan Patterson, Shimiti, Irabunim, even Decore, really. You look at them and there's no guarantee that they're going to be in and around Everton's first team next season. And it's for them now to sort of let the manager know what they're about and why they were signed in the first place. And I think that's massive for Everton, because even, you know, Michalenko going out of the team last week and giving Patterson that chance, you're finally getting to see Patterson because of how well Jake O'Brien's doing. He's not getting in there. And same with Irabunim and stuff. Like, does he stay at Everton? Does he go out on loan and get that experience? Same with Shimiti. I think it's important now that we have got this bench and we've got players who are fighting for the position.
I mean, Irabunim plays 65 minutes and doesn't come off the bench this week. Nathan Patterson plays the game last week, doesn't come off the bench. Shimiti, who's had a couple of moments coming off the bench since the West Ham game where he made a major influence. The manager is sort of having a look at them, but I was just looking there, you know, we made the make a couple of subs, obviously Beto first and then Carlos Alcaraz, and then obviously late on Dwight McNeil comes. We've had 6 chances after we've made those subs, and listen, I'm not massively into me subs and into me stats, sorry, but I wonder like where that obviously ranks in terms of like, just with your own eyes, we know for a start, like Dyche's teams and Moyes when he came in, we'd give anyone a game. Dyche's team would give anyone a game for 60 minutes. you know, even if they were like 1-0 down, but and then it was after the 60-minute mark where you start obviously feeling the pain, and then you look at the bench and he's not got much there, and you know, that's where you look at him and go, well, I mean, he could have made changes if he'd wanted to, or if he'd looked at other players, obviously like Jacob Brien, but the fact that we have got that bench and the manager is rotating a little bit, you know, when he has got an opportunity for the Beto to come on and make it, you know, he's obviously dropped. Beto hasn't scored for a few games, but Beto can't really have any complaints because he hasn't scored, and he's had clear-cut opportunities, so he can't. So he's got to come on and make an impression, and he does. And Carlos Alcaraz comes on, and I think the Carlos Alcaraz one's a bit of a weird one because number one, you've got someone like Decore in the position he's playing in, and the manager likes that. But you've also got the 9 games. I think if he plays gets 4 more starts, he triggers the release clause. Well, if the club are not 100% on him, they can't make that, and I'm sure he'll get another 3 starts before now, and it might be that those starts are maybe Ipswich, Fulham, and say Southampton. I don't know. So you've got to be careful with that. And Dwight McNeil's just coming back. Yeah. So you've got to balance it all out. But I just look at that and think we've made the subs and we've gone on again. We've kept pushing Forest back. We've limited them to very, very little in that second half. They've had a couple of shots on target, I think, in the entire second half. And to me, again, that just shows how key the subs are, using the subs and having that bench.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at sort of the players that were switching, so you took Brozier off, but you brought Beto on. I think one of Beto's main strengths is his energy. Yeah. So the defenders are obviously tired because it's late on, and now they've got Beto running on him. So it's just that switch of tactics, really, I think will be key under winning games. And, you know, Dwight McNeil comes on, gets an assist as well. Yeah. And it's just little stuff like that. It's just, I think me and you spoke about it quite a bit, haven't we, that if Beto's not scoring, no one else, well, for a while, if Beto wasn't scoring, no one else was scoring. And it's time that if Beto does have a couple of off games, people around him are starting to pick up more goals, picking up more assists and stuff. I think that's something that's key now, is that there's more people to take the workload off Beto.
And also, I was just looking at the Forest shots. So in the second half, they had most of the stuff they did was they had a shot on the 54th minute, a shot that was the Hudson-Odoi. Then they had one on the 58th minute, that was Silva. Then Nico Williams 61, which was blocked, and then Morgan gives White 62, which was the one that done the little back kick and it was it picked for that to save. The next shot they had was 90 plus 6 after we'd scored. Yeah. So for half an hour, for the last half an hour, mostly after we've made those subs, they haven't done a tap. Yeah. It's all been Everton. And again, I think that shows the strength of the mindset, making the subs at the right time. And listen, David Moyes doesn't always make the subs at the right time. He doesn't always make them in the right order. But I think they are really, really good stats to show you.
Not faith.
that last half an hour we absolutely dominated, and only one team was ever could be disappointed with a draw, and that would have been us. And that obviously accumulated in the goal we got, and that was their first corner of the game. It was just a drifted ball into the box which Mikalenko has to deal with. But we dealt with it so well, didn't we? We dealt with it. Carlos Alcaraz wins the first header. Garner goes out. Idrissa Gueye goes out. Presses the first. Make sure that the ball has to go to Murillo. He puts a bad touch on it, and then Dwight McNeil obviously steals it off him. Couple of touches, plays a absolutely amazing pass, and then the Corey just finishes in, and no better way to win a game than the 94th minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially Dwight McNeil coming back in again, that pass, and I know there's been sort of a debate online of did he mean that pass?
Well, I'll be honest, Moyes didn't give him much credit.
Was it a good pass in general? But I think other angles, I think it was a good pass.
We'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, we'll give him the benefit. Yeah, but I think it was a good pass, and I think sort of them, what we were talking about before, that the squad rotation stuff. Someone's coming off the bench and getting an assist right away. It's a good look for him as well. It's that competition for Jack Harrison now he has to do it next time, because we've had similar situations in the sort of final minutes where Jack Harrison's been the one going forward and he hasn't made that pass. So stuff like that's dead important. But it was a great goal, and it was so deserved. I was so annoyed up until that point that I thought, we've really thrown away such a good chance to just get all 3 points here, and it'd be another draw, and then you'd have people moaning and stuff again. But for Decore to get it and finish it the way he did, and obviously the celebration was interesting enough to do.
Yeah, sign me up. I think, listen, no, Dwight McNeil's pass got where it was intended to go.
Yeah.
Not gonna
done the job. That's
not gonna dig him out for that. It got to where it was meant to go. I think, listen, it's one of them, isn't it? It's like, what do you want more? We often, people will look at the draws and go, we should be winning more. But generally, Saturday was one of those games where you would have walked away. You would have looked. You can look at it because it's like, it's not because of where we are. You could look at it and go, it's a good point, that. But you can be disappointed. I don't think there's been too many. I think, Man United definitely disappointed that we didn't win the game, and of course, not getting the penalty in the last minute made that even worse.
Yeah.
Brentford, we tried to win it late on, and I think sometimes you can look at that and go, you tried to win it. Wolves, we had a couple of opportunities, but a draw was a fair result. Arsenal was a fair result, and it's who you're playing. I think we should have got I
think it's more of a disappointment though in the fact that we're not capitalising on when we get chances.
So for Saturday, I think to get the winner, we absolutely deserved it.
Yeah.
And it is important that we showed we could win it as well. I think that's the most important thing, is that we were trying to win it even when they had a corner. We didn't all just sit back in two banks of four and just clear it and then just stay there. And again, you said it before, that's the difference, is that they've got a corner in the last minute and you're just praying they don't score, but yet the mindset is we can score here if we go out and press them. The natural way of thinking is that Garner would have just sat back, and Dwight McNeil would have sat back and dealt with a long ball pumped into the box. But once it's in the box, it only has to drop one way or another and hit someone and go in. We've determined that we're not, and that's what the best sides do. Pressing is so important to stop the opposition from doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
And we've done it, and it's led to us scoring a goal, and it's a well-deserved 3 points. And before that, we'd had a few opportunities with some subs. Carlos Alcaraz coming on and driving with the ball, creating an opportunity, going wide, and it falling to Jack Harrison, and he's put it over. And we've had a few little ones like that. That showed the other side, Carlos Alcaraz, what he can do. I thought we should have had a penalty on. I thought the one on Carlos Alcaraz was a penalty. For me, I just looked at him going, he's took him out. Carlos Alcaraz has knocked it past him.
Yeah.
And he's took him out. Whether he's going to get that ball or not,
he still took him out.
He still took him out. And then he's pretended like it was a high foot, took him out. And I'll never understand this in football, how that's not a foul.
Yeah.
But what did you make of the better one?
It was interesting. I think it was a pen, because I think he's run onto it, isn't he, and it's got in the way. But it's just frustrating, isn't it, because there's just so many different rules for different people. And there was that clip of him in this game pointing at the badge saying, is it because I have this badge on? And it's just dead frustrating, isn't it, that there's no real clearness to whether something's a penalty or not anymore. And there's two pen shouts there and we're talking about it, and both of them on a different day probably were given. It's just that consistent thing of it. You just don't know with the decisions anymore.
I thought the one on Beto was a foul, but I don't know if it was a penalty or not because of where it was. I thought Miralone knew exactly what he was doing, and sometimes this is where players outsmart referees by almost like it being so borderline that they're like, as long as I don't. And this is where I think people go, well, if Beto hadn't have thrown himself over, then maybe he would have got something. It's like, well, if he doesn't throw himself over, then he's not getting a foul, is he?
It's the same counter argument, isn't it? That if he doesn't do it, they'll say, oh, he should have done that to sell it to the ref. Yeah. Like, you can't win.
But of course, if he doesn't fall over, then it's...
Same thing with the Ashley Young one and the Man United one, where it's like, you can't win with that sort of argument.
Yeah. I thought it was definitely a foul, but I thought the one on Alcaraz, that's just for me, in football, where you see so many weird things where it's like, how is someone literally... to me, put it this way, the one Branthwaite done on, was a Silva, is exactly what that lad did to Alcaraz.
Yeah.
He body checked him,
But it was in the box.
but it was in the box.
Yeah.
Like, that lad was never getting that ball because Mykolenko had it, and yet they got a foul.
But they didn't get given a foul first. It's so weird. It doesn't. VAR can't be used for yellow cards, but that foul was given out of nowhere.
So, and then the one on Alcaraz was like, he'd knocked it past him. Whether he was going to get it or not is immaterial. He took him out. I thought that was a staggering decision. I really thought that was mad. But anyway, it blows my mind sometimes, some of the decisions people get in football. But couple of big performances. Let's just look at Jared Branthwaite, who won 9 out of 9 aerial duels. I think this is why we picked him, especially with obviously with Chris Wood coming into the side. But 9 out of 9, possession won 5 times, clearances 6 recoveries, 5 and 2 tackles, and you can just see the heat map from there on that left hand side. But so dominant in the air, just so calm. Him and Taki, obviously we could have put Taki up there, and it was just that 9 out of 9. Aerial deals. When Chris Wood, especially at Goodison, you know, Chris Wood's having the season of his life, and fair play, but Branthwaite, you know, people now and again will
be questioned as a
digging him out. And listen, you know, when he was the England squad, and then, you know, there's rumours about him and all that kind of, and David Moyes was asked about him, wasn't he, on Friday in the press conference about him, and he's like, well,
he's our player.
We've got 3 years on a contract, he's our player, and we don't want to sell him. And there will be rumours, and you know, I'm sure the rumours will be like Newcastle, I'm sure will be the rumours soon, I imagine. But 9 out of 9, that's just pure dominance, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just a really good performance from him, wasn't it? And it's just, when you see him on the ball, he looks so comfortable every time. And there was times where he's like shouting at Mykolenko to get forward, and him progressing into the midfield himself and stuff. And I think, you know, I'm not gonna lie, he had a shaky start where he wasn't at his best, but I think now he's shown why.
The season, you mean?
Yeah, well, I think he's shown why he was rated at having £85 million price tag or higher or whatever. And the partnership he has with Tarkowski as well, I think, has been really good, and that's sort of why Patterson can't get into the team, because you can't drop either of them. No. And you can't drop O'Brien either, because of how good he's been.
The manager isn't going to rest Tarky, especially when Tarky's played like every minute of every game.
I think it's like 119 consecutive or something.
He's the captain as well, so he's not going to be. I know people go, well, you've got to give Patterson a go, and that means giving. There are, as I said, it's a very thin sort of line you're on there, where at 5 o'clock on Saturday we were all absolutely delighted, and if so many younger players have been playing, or squad players, and we'd lost, and you go, yeah, but it's for the future. We're football fans, we're fickle, we want wins. The future will, you know, we want players to get given chances, but if we lose games, we go, why did you play him? He was rubbish, or why did he stay on for so long?
But that's the nice thing as well, where you're going back to, you know, the sort of the squad depth and the bench, is that we can afford to put on I know Broge is not necessarily a young player, but we can afford to put him on. We can afford to put on an Idrissa, because we have them players on the bench where they come in, you know, they're still going to give sort of that 100%, and we can go on to still win games with them. So I think that's another really important thing, really, with having all them players back and having such a strong bench now.
Yeah, it allows you to make those changes, and you can make, if you're making like 1 or 2 again. I know the thing would be if you really... See, I just don't think that David Moyes is really settled on anyone to give them a long run in the team. If he really thought there was like a young lad coming through, it was like, this lad's amazing, you know, maybe...
O'Brien, he's probably the only one.
He's the one, isn't he? He has found him a position to play, because he truly does believe that he's going to be a player that he can utilise, whether it be right back or centre back. But I don't think, if he truly believed in one player in the squad, like a Tim Bunham or a Schmitty, that player, I think, would be he'd find somewhere for him to play. And I think that's just where we are at the moment. I think there's players there that he looks at and goes, you could do all right, but I need to see a bit more of you. Carlos Alcaraz is another one. If he truly if he definitely thought Carlos Alcaraz was staying, or he'd made his mind up, then I think I think Carlos Alcaraz would be starting games. But we're not at that point yet. He still hasn't made his mind up, and I think that's why players aren't going to be given a run. And I think some people would probably go, well, if you don't give them a good run, you're never going to find out. But you know, that's as I said, that's the fickleness of being a fan. You want wins, You want Everton to be doing well. You want them to be finishing as high as we can in the table. We've all come off the weekend, made up that, with 13th. You know what I mean? It's like, even though there's only 3 points between us and 17th, it is the way it is. But listen, the other one player we wanted to talk about was Idrissa Gueye, because he is just like...
This just became his section of the show.
He's just the Duracell bunny, isn't he? 92% pass accuracy, 8 recoveries, 3 clearances, 9 out of 11 accurate long balls, and 2 ground duels. 1, was it? Yeah. Obviously, you can see his heat map. I mentioned this on his heat map on Saturday, which is really interesting. Is look at that space, that space there in our own half, where you'd think he would be.
Yeah, like sitting just in front. Yeah.
You think that he would be in that space, sitting there, and he's not. He's everywhere else. So that shows you, I think, how we've used him better recently, of just allowing him to do his job. And the fact that in the 94th minute, he is pressing their centre-back from our corner, I think tells you, number one, what his job is, number two, how fit he is. And if there is any... I heard someone, and I'm not digging this one person out or anything, but I heard someone on the radio say they wouldn't give him a contract. And it blew my mind. Yeah. I'm not asked about how old he is. I'm not asked if he wears big blue shiny tights. Right? I don't care. I don't care about the African nations. I care that this is a lad who week in and week out is given 7+ performances. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? 7 out of 10 plus performances every single week. Idrissa Gueye.
I do the graphics of these shows normally, and this just became the Idrissa Gueye section. Every week we're coming in and we're saying how good he's played again, and that he's defying his age and stuff like that. And I think it's just sad that he is his age, isn't it? Because if you had a player like him, he was, say, 10 years younger, be over £100 million now, because he's just so good every week for us.
Someone sent us a thing before saying we've bought him twice and it's cost us 10 million quid.
And we sold him for 30.
And we've had, how many years have we had out of him?
Yeah.
Like, what is it now? Like 6 years?
It's 20 million in profit.
Like, to me, you stick him on a contract and you're just like, it's a rolling contract. Yeah. Get him on a rolling contract for the net. And literally, like, we can talk about all the playing, some of the Corey, and obviously you mentioned before about the signing thing. I think that's very interesting, because I agree you can't sign the Corey on the wages he was on.
Yeah.
But, for me, I just find it strange that you've got a player who is in the team and you're not trying to give him a contract. So we'll wait and see on that one. But just in terms of Idrissa Gueye, he's obviously going to get a contract. We all want him to stay. And, next season, you want to give him less games. And that means someone coming in who can do that job. Yeah. But someone's got to come in and do that job.
To replace him,
and nobody's been able to do that job. When we sold him, no one could do that job. So it is what it is, isn't it?
It's so tough. In an ideal world, you'd sign someone this summer, and you'd sort of try to get him out the team, or he's started to get replaced. But I think he's that good of a level that I don't see anyone who could sign who'd be an instant improvement on him.
Yeah, he's a fun.
And how much would he cost if we had someone?
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player. Let's look at the match stats. 58% possession for Everton. We've won the possession. Unbelievable. Big chances 2 to Forest's 0. It was, total shots 13 to their 10. Corner kicks 7 to their 1. We've dominated the game and we deserve to win it, and it's absolutely fantastic. And then any Evertonian there was absolutely buzzing with the win. And we're on 38 points now.
13th place.
Technically, we need one more point either we get another point or Ipswich don't win all their games. But we just want to stay up there. And obviously we've got a tough game against Manchester City at the weekend, but Everton have proven that they can go to difficult places and win. So for the getaway games, and hopefully we can keep the unbeaten run at Goodison going and finish the season unbeaten at Goodison.
I mean, it's sad that there's only so little games left now, isn't there?
Yeah.
But the form we're in, why not? Why can't we win them all?
Win them all.
not?
There you go. James there finishing on an absolutely brilliant, positive note. Just win them all and we'll all be happy. There you go. Nice one for James. Graphics and brilliant analysis. What more do you want? What more do you want? Bars, you stay in Wales. No issues whatsoever. Right, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already. We are about 1,300. Is it 1,300? 1,200?
1,200.
1,200 away from 100,000. If you haven't subscribed, please don't let my general attitude or, you know, my opinions stop you from subscribing to this channel. Which someone told me today it did. That's fine. But don't. You got James, you got Baz, you got John. Those people are, you know, are much more elevated,
calmer,
and more enlightened than I am. Don't let my opinions. Or you might not like those three and just like me. So if you have, then subscribe. Who knows? Who knows? But it's a team. It's a package. You're here for all of us. Make sure you subscribe. Give this video a like if you want more great videos. Join us over on Toffee TV Premiere, where, you know, we do an extended version of this video and we do it live and all those good stuff. The link is in the description. QR codes come on the screen now. See you later.